Oh, hello. Today's lesson is on slope. So go ahead and take out your note guide or take out a piece of paper. Make sure you have something to write with, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here are some important things that you need to know about slope. Slope is used to describe the measurement of the steepness of a line. Slope can be positive, negative, zero, or undefined. Slope is a fraction, and slope is found by finding the change in y over the change in x, or we call that the rise over the run. So take a minute, make sure you have these things written down, and then push pause if you need to, and push play when you're ready to move forward. In order to help us understand what slope is, we're going to use the use of our friend Oscar here, a cross-country skier. Every line that we can draw on the coordinate plane has a certain slope. Lines that slant uphill on the graph from left to right have a positive slope. Such hills require Oscar to increase his energy level to get up these hills. He must add energy to get up the hill. Graph lines that go uphill from left to right have positive slope. So you can see this line right here is going up from left to right. So any lines that go up from left to right, we would say those have a positive slope. Lines that slant downhill on the graph from left to right have a negative slope. Such hills require that Oscar decrease his energy level in an attempt to slow down. He must subtract energy to slow down. Graphed lines that go downhill from left to right have a negative slope. So any lines that we graph that are going downhill from the left to right, we would say that those have a negative slope. Lines that are horizontal, straight across from left to right, have zero slope. Such paths do not go uphill or downhill. Oscar does not need to increase or decrease his energy level. The change in his energy level is zero. Graphed lines that are horizontal have a zero slope. Horizontal lines have lots of run, but no rise. Therefore, the rise over the run, or 0 divided by any number, is going to be 0. When we look at vertical lines, we need to realize that no slope exists, or we can say that vertical lines have an undefined slope. It does not mean the slope is 0. It means that the slope is undefined. Oscar cannot ski on such paths. Broken bones await him at the bottom. Graph lines that are vertical have no slope or undefined slope. Vertical lines have lots of rise, but no run. Therefore, the rise over the run, or the number over 0, equals undefined. So when we talk about slope, we know that it's a fraction. There are a couple of things that I want to clarify from those images of Oscar. If you have 0 divided by any number, your answer is going to be 0. If you have a number divided by 0, your answer is going to be undefined. And if you were to put 5 divided by 0 into your calculator, you would see that there would be an error. Your calculator would not do that. Okay, so when we're talking about slope, we're talking about the change in y over the change in x. So if your change in y is a 0, like this image right here, okay, to get from one place on the line to another place on the line, you don't move up or down at all. So that change in y is 0. And so that leaves you with 0 on top of your fraction. And anytime you have, like I said, 0 divided by anything, then your answer is always going to be 0. And then when we talk about a vertical line, if we pick a point on this vertical line and we figure out what our change in y is, well, we can see that there is a change in y, but there is no change in x. So that's going to leave us with a 0 under our fraction. So anytime you have something divided by 0, you would say that is undefined. So there are two ways to find slope. One of them is by graphing the line and picking 2 points on the line and then counting the change in y over the change in x, or the rise over the run. Okay, and I'm going to teach you how to do both of these. Okay, so one way is to graph and count. You can graph your line, pick 2 points that are on the line, and then count the change in y over the change in x. Okay, another way is by using the slope formula. So let's go ahead and talk about how we find slope by graphing and counting first. So here we have a line graphed. Okay, you can see that this line passes through the point -2, 1, and it also passes through the point 1, 3. So if we want to find the slope of a line by graphing and counting, we need to pick 2 points that are on the line. So that's our first step, is to pick 2 points. Okay, and then our second step is we are going to count the change in y. So how did we have to move from here to here? So this is our y-axis right here. So how many did we have to move up or down to get from this point to this point? So for our second step, we are going to count our change in y. So from here to here, here's our y-axis. We can see that we had to move up 2. So we had to move up 1, up 2. So our change in y is 2. That is the top number of our fraction. And now we're going to find the change in x. Okay, so how did we have to move? You know, this is our x-axis, right? So how do we have to move horizontally to get from here to here? Well, we have to move 1, 2, 3 spaces. So our change in x is going to be 3. So that gives us a fraction of 2 over 3. That is the slope of this line. Okay, remember, slope is always a fraction of your rise over your run. And for some reason in mathematics, mathematicians decided to use the alphabet letter M to mean slope. Okay, so in math, whenever you see the letter M, just know that that is slope. Okay, so we're going to practice this a little bit more. We are going to find the slope of the line that passes through the points, and we are going to do that by graphing and counting. So line A passes through the point -2, 1 and 1, 2. So let's go ahead and plot those 2 points, draw our line, and then find our slope. For line A, I'm going to use the color blue. Okay, so we know that line A crosses through the point -2, 1. So to the left 2 and up 1. And also it crosses through the point 1, 2. So that means to the right 1 and up 2. Now once I have my 2 points drawn, I can graph a line. Remember, if we know 2 points that are on the line, we can graph the line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw our line here in blue. Okay, so if we want to find the slope of this line, Okay, once we have our 2 points, once we plot our 2 points, which we did, our next step is to count the change in y. Okay, so to get from here to here, how much did we have to change vertically? Remember, our y-axis is our vertical axis. So to get from here to here, we can see that we had to move up 1 space. So our change in y is going to be 1. So that gives us the top number of our fraction. Okay, we know our change in y is 1. Now let's go ahead and figure out our change in x. Okay, so first step is to find the change in y. Second step is to find the change in x. That'll give you your fraction, which is your slope. Okay, remember, slope is always a measurement of the steepness of the line, and it's always a fraction. So let's find our change in x. So we knew we had to move up 1. Okay, so our change in y was 1. And then we have to move to the right 1, 2, 3. So our change in x is 3. So the top number of our fraction is 1. The bottom number of our fraction is 3. So the slope of this line is 1 over 3. So that means from one point to another point on the line, we move up 1 to the right 3. That always lands us on this line. So up 1 to the right 3. Okay, we can see that if we move up 1 to the right 3, that always, from one point to another, that always lands us on this line because that's the steepness of this line. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so for the next one, I am going to use the color red. We want to graph line B that passes through the point 3, 2, and 3, negative 2. Okay, so 3, 2, that's to the right 3 and up 2. 3, negative 2 is to the right 3 and down 2. So we can see that this line B is a vertical line. And the equation for this line, actually, I hope that you guys could tell me the equation of this line would be x equals 3, just as a side note. Because this line crosses through 3 on the x-axis. And remember, all vertical lines have an x equals equation. Okay, so if we want to find the slope of this line, once we have graphed the line and found 2 points on the line, our next step is to find the change in y, so our vertical change. So how do we get from one point to another point? How do we have to move vertically? So from here to here, we have to move down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay, so our change in y is 4. That means that the top number of our fraction is 4. Okay, now let's go ahead and find our change in x. Well, to get from here to here, we don't move horizontally at all. We don't move to the right or the left. So our change in x is going to be 0. And anytime you have 0 under your fraction, we would say that is undefined. Okay, so the steepness of this line is undefined. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the slope of line C. We know line C crosses through the point negative 3, 4. So that means to the left 3 and up 4. Negative 3, 4 would be right here. To the left 3 and up 4. And it also crosses through the point 0, 3. So that's to the right or left 0 and up 3. So now we can draw that line. This is line C. Oh, I need to do that better. Okay, so for line C, if we want to find the slope of line C, we are going to count the change in y over the change in x. So our change in y, let's do that first. So from this point to this point, you can see that this slope is falling down and to the right. So we know this line is slanting down and to the right, so we know the slope of this line is going to be negative. To move from here to here, we can see our vertical change is down 1. You can see you have to move down 1. So that would be a negative 1. Okay, anytime you're moving down or to the left, then that would be negative. So from here to here, our change in x would be to the right 3. So if we move down 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3, that lands us on another point on the line. And since we move to the right, that would be positive 3. So our change in y is negative 1. Our change in x is positive 3. So the slope of this line is negative 1/3. Let's look at line D. Okay, so line D crosses through the point 0, negative 5. So the right or left 0 and then down 5. And then negative 4, negative 5. So to the left 4, down 5. So we can see that line D is a horizontal line crossing through negative 5 on the y-axis. The equation of this line is going to be y equals negative 5. If we want to find the slope of this line, we find the change in y first, and then we find the change in x. So from this point to this point, it looks like our change in y is 0. There is no vertical change at all. Our change in x is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to move 4 spaces to the right to get to another point on this line. So our fraction for our slope ends up being 0 over 4. And anytime you have something divided, or 0 divided by something, your answer is always 0. So the slope of line D is 0. For today's quiz, I'm going to have you do a few of these independent practice problems on your own. I'm going to choose 2 of these to do with you, and then I'm going to do 3 of them with you, and then I'm going to leave 3 of them for you to do on your own. So for each of these, you are finding the slope by counting the rise over the run. Okay? So in order to find the slope by counting the rise over the run, your first step is to graph your line. Your second step is to find 2 points that are on the line. Okay, and if you look at question number 1, you can see that there's a point right here at 0, negative 3, and a point right here at 2, 1. So you're going to count the rise over the run from one point to another point on the line. Okay? Remember, any line that slants up and to the right is going to have a positive slope. Any line that slants down and to the right is going to have a negative slope. Remember that if a line is just a horizontal line, the slope is 0, and if a line is a vertical line, the slope is undefined. Okay, so for question number 1, the line has already been graphed for you. 2 points have already been chosen. So all you have to do is count the change in y over the change in x, and that will give you your fraction. Okay, your fraction for your slope. So from here to here, we have to move up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So our change in y is 4. And then we have to move to the right 1, 2 spaces. So our change in x is going to be 2. So that means our fraction is 4 over 2. And it's always really good if you can simplify your fraction. 4 over 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. And if we are moving up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 2, that lands us on the line. Or if we move up 2 to the right 1, you can see that that still lands us on the line. Okay, so 4 over 2 or 2 over 1. That would be the slope of line number 1. Let's do one that has a negative slope together. Let's do number 4. Okay, on number 4, you can see that there are 2 points that already have been chosen for you. 0, 3, and 4, negative 4. And this line is slanting down and to the right, so we know it's going to have a negative slope. In order to find what the slope is, we are going to count the change in y over the change in x. So to move from here to here, we have to move down. I wish this wasn't so little. We have to move down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So our vertical change is 7. Okay, so our change in y is 7. And then we have to move to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. So our horizontal change is 4. So the slope of this line right here is 7 over 4. And because we moved down 7. So the top number of our fraction is negative. Okay? Anytime you're moving down or to the left, you would say that is negative. Okay, so negative 7 over 4. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Let's do number 3 together. Okay, so for number 3, let's find our 2 points that they've picked for you. When you're doing this, you can actually pick any 2 points that you want, but let's go ahead and use the ones that have already been picked. So we have a point at negative 3, negative 4, and we have a point at 2, 3. So if we want to find the slope of the line that passes between these 2 points, we are going to find the change in y. So we're going to count our vertical change, and then we are going to count our horizontal change. This line is slanting up and to the right, so we know that it has a positive slope. So if we move from here to here, we're going to have to move up 1. Okay, so we're going to have to move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So we have to move up 7. So that means the top number of our fraction is a positive 7. Then we have to move to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So the slope of this fraction would be 7 over 5. So that means from one point to another point on the line, we have to move up 7. If we move up 7 to the right 5, that will always land us on this line right here. Okay, that's the steepness of this line. Okay, so we did number 1, 3, and 4 together. For your quiz, I want you to do number 2, 5, and 6. I want you to practice these 3 on your own, finding the slope. Okay, so remember the steps for finding the slope, if you are going to graph and count, is to first graph your line, and then after you have graphed your line, the second thing you are going to do is find 2 points on the line, or find 2 points that the line crosses through. The third thing that you're going to do is find the change in y. That's the top number of your fraction. Then you're going to find the change in x. That's the bottom number of your fraction. And then that is your slope. Remember that anytime you move to the right or up, that is a positive change, okay? Anytime you are moving to the left or down, that is going to be a negative change. So with that said, if you need some more help with this, join me in class or in Math Lab, and have an awesome day. Talk to you soon. If you can't print the note guide for this, there is some graph paper in our course material that you can use to replicate these graphs, or possibly you can see them in the video. The best thing to do though would be to, if you don't have a note guide, to actually graph these on your own piece of paper, and it will make the graphing and counting a little bit easier, I believe. Talk to you soon.